Hope you can all hear me. Yes, okay, better. I can see that now. Everyone's nodding. So thanks very much. Really pleased to be here, really surprised to be here. But no, I'm very happy. I think when I was having conversations with Tom and Luke about what this festival was, obviously Dare to Disrupt is a major thing, it's a new thing, it's very, very exciting and innovative. Very, very impactful statement and bold statement, and this is kind of why you guys are all here. That's not really in my comfort zone. So I'm going to circle back round, slow us down a bit, and kind of really root ourselves in the basics and talk a bit about what we're kind of doing at the North Face and how we kind of play it within VF. So disrupting the flow of the session, I want to talk about simplicity and why I think that's the best thing for you and your brands. So I'm really, really fortunate. I get to work at one of the most recognizable brands in the world. I've been at the North Face since 2019. And, you know, from Kanye rocking the Nuptse, Hailey Bieber, who has been sporting our Denalis, and Pau Capel, who's been winning UTMB year after year, head to toe in our trail running. Basically what it means is everything that we've been doing innovatively, product-wise, it's always been rooted in technology, it's always been rooted on the mountains, and it's very, very simple. So yes, we've been leaving the must-haves and the hottest list, but how are we doing it? And the point of the matter is it's about rooting ourselves in authenticity. So I'm not trying to be a downer, I'm not asking you to scale things down, but what I am saying is let's get down to the why and why it is and what it is that you're trying to sell. So I had a really good chat with the colleagues, and I don't mean to be very sort of lecturally, but I think when we hear the word sell, what that kind of feels like to all of us is it can be a really, really negative connotation, and actually it's not. It could be the financial, literal exchange, or it could be about influencing, and therefore the term to be sold to can be super, super negative. So when that all comes to life in regard to your campaign, what is it you're trying to do? So are we trying to sell the idea of getting me to speak here? How Luke did it was about the free bar. What I would say is what we try and do at the North Face is selling comes into three pillars. And so what ultimately is it you're trying to sell? So it doesn't matter what sector you work in, whether that's brewery, whether that's you're working for apparel industry, whether you're working for vacation industry. It's really about what is the three pillars and how we kind of get into this. So for me, it kind of falls into what is that need? A need is pretty simple. It's usually based and rooted in product, and what product fulfills that need that you have. So any of you that talk to me for more than 10 minutes will know I have a French bulldog called Indy, and despite what the breed preferences we were told, he likes to walk a lot. We probably do about 8K a day. Now, living in Central Europe, the weather can suck, even more than the UK. It can be very cold, it can be very wet. So what's my need? My need, for most of the time, is an insulated, waterproof jacket. It's pretty simple. There's pretty simple companies that sell these, there's pretty simple companies that make these. But the transition for this is, how does this relate to you? How do you communicate this to me? So for us at the North Face, what we focus on is, A, what is the need? Am I cold? Am I wet? Am I doing an expedition? What is it that I need? And therefore, how does that campaign influence and change depending on how I'm going to communicate that? So how do I influence somebody to understand the features and benefits? How do I influence somebody to try our products? How do I get somebody to engage with us in this way? The second pillar for me is about lifestyle. So what is that lifestyle? And the lifestyle is the hardest to crack, and that is really about building that community. It's about that brand immersion for those consumers. And without community, a lot of the brands are starting to fail. For us at the North Face, it's rooted in authenticity in everything that we try and do. So in regards to the communities that we have in store, the events and the experiences that we put on for our loyalty customers or for new customers. But it's really, really important when you're thinking about the campaigns that you're creating, is not only is there a need from a specific product perspective, but also how do you then engage with that community? So for us, very much about nature, whether that's style, but what is that lifestyle? What are my friends talking about? How am I engaging with the whole community and a broad spectrum of people? And then there's the aspiration. Now, the aspiration can be quite simple. Obviously, if you work in luxury, if you work in premium products, that can generally be driven by price point. But what we're looking for here is, what is that ultimate blue sky? What is that top of mountain appeal? What is that feeling, that emotion that I aspire to be? So by buying into this product, by buying into this experience, by buying into this brand, what does this mean for me? What does this mean for my life? And that's really kind of what we try and root in terms of the aspirational products. When we talk about our Summit Series collections, when we talk about our Top of Mountain and all of our expeditions, how is that rooted in environmental care and support and sustainability? So just to kind of reiterate, as I realize I'm a bit nervous, so I've been talking quite quickly, but for us it's really about the what. So what ultimately is it? Is it a specific product? Is it a community and lifestyle, or is it the aspiration? I think it's really, really important that for us, everything that we have is athlete tested and expedition proven. So it's about rooting that authenticity. So the brands that you're working for, how are they rooted in authenticity? How are you showcasing that information? How are you spreading that message? And I'm not here to tell you how to do that, unfortunately, because I would have to kill you and then my bosses would kill me. But in general, this is the 3 pillars that we're really looking at in regard to how we create that next level. I want to just shout out to the American Marketing Association, whose picture I've taken for this presentation. I think what's been really important for me is, when looking and thinking about what I was going to talk to you guys about today, one thing that's really important for us is ultimately, who are you trying to sell it to? And I think a lot of the times we can look at what's sexy, what's new, what's innovative, what's the cool, how are we going to engage, what's the great party, what's the great event. But ultimately, who is that person? I think this showcases, especially now within the UK, Europe, global, depending on what kind of brand that you have, the North Face being a super global brand, we have that broad appeal and we try and cater for everybody. There are wide ranges of products within, but ultimately, who are you trying to sell to? And I think a lot of brands can forget the message. And through the podcast, the conversations that I'd had with Tom, I don't know if any of you had heard it, it was really talking about, so often we forget the consumers that we have, and we're really, really focused on the consumers that we want. Now, new consumers are key for growth, key for market share. It's super, super important to get new people to engage with your brand at all times. However, please don't forget the loyalty and the consumers that you have, because ultimately it's through word of mouth, it's through consumer engagement, it's through brand representation. It's like when you look around the room, who is wearing your brand, who is drinking your brand, who is eating your brand. And that is what's truly, truly important. So for us, it's really not to forget who is at the core of your campaign, who is at the core of your thought process when you're either creating that product or you're considering how to bring that to market. And that's something that, through my role at the North Face as a go-to-market director, it's that end-to-end creation. So what is that need? What is that lifestyle? What is that aspiration? And ultimately, who needs it? Who wants it? And if there is no need for it, don't build it. I think it's also really important here to just reiterate about community and how we kind of speak to it. And I think more and more, it's very much a case of honing in on what your consumer base care about. Definitely something that we're looking at doing and we are actively doing in our communities is, how do we get people involved in the outdoors? How do you get people concerned about the environment? How do you get people concerned in sustainability? And so everything in terms of recycling and sustainability and how we bring those into our products, how we bring that into our brand, how we share that with all of you is more and more important. So regardless of which brand you work for, really think about what is that ethos, what is that end-to-end, because more often than not, the focus can be on the end result. Is that about driving revenue, or is that about building brand awareness? And so my final slide, I've gone through these quite quickly, but in general, what are you going to sell and how are you going to sell it? Now, this is up to you. I think what's really important is ultimately attracting the community, attracting your community, highlighting who that is, asking yourself that question. Who am I trying to talk to? Are you talking to that teenage girl, or are you talking to the 30-something dog walker? How are you engaging that crowd? And this is what you're here for, engaging those crowds and educating the committed. So how are you continuously striving through the different campaigns, through the different innovations, through the different connection points with your consumer base to engage with them, excite them, and ultimately educate the ones that are committed? The education is what can be super challenging. Nobody wants to hear about features and benefits. Nobody wants to be sold to. No one wants to be told that we're the best. This is the best product for us. This is what we need. They want to find it out for themselves. So how do you do that education? Is that through a speaker series sessions? Is that through tried and tested? Is that through your in-stores? Is that through any of the retail points that you guys have? It's really, really important to consider that end-to-end consumer journey. And that's what's key from product creative concept until that point of sale. Converting the customers. Now this is the tricky one, and normally that kind of falls to the wayside of the guys in the wholesale departments, the guys in the retail stores, but ultimately it's like, when you're doing your campaigns, it's not just about making the sexiest, the brightest, the most disruptive, even though this is what this conference is about. It's also about how are we converting that consumer, and are you converting that consumer away from another brand? Are you converting a brand new consumer that's never tried this product before? Because converting them away from another brand is also a challenge, but ultimately, if you feel that you have the best products, the best engagement, how do you keep that longevity and how do you convert that? And don't forget the core. I think it's a repeated concept that we use within VF, within the North Face, within all of our brands, which is remembering our core ethos. What is our brand purpose? The brand purpose is the most important thing, because without being rooted in authenticity, you have nothing. So often than not, you see certain brands that talk about sustainability, but then get caught out burning products. This is the kind of thing that's super, super challenging. And for us, it's very important to remember what that core message is. If your brand is telling a story, if your brand is telling a message, remember that core and keep that consistency season after season. That does not mean there's not room for disruption, there's innovation, challenges, changes. That's super important to stay fresh. But remembering your authenticity for a brand, especially like the one I work for, whose products haven't really changed since 50 years ago. Ultimately, it's about how we're re-energizing, reinvigorating, and showcasing to a whole new, wider, younger consumer base. So before I kind of close up, and I realize I think I've run very, very fast, I just want to leave you one thing. Before we kind of get lost in the noise, just ask yourself, what are you doing this for? Ultimately, bring it back to the simple truth, which is we have a brand goal, we have a brand purpose, we have a reason for being. What is that reason? And own it. And be really disruptive and go out boldly and put your stake in the grass and kind of say, this is what we stand for, this is how our campaigns are going to be, and this is how we're going to continue to talk to our consumers with consistency. And that's it.
Thanks so much, Jen. Are there any questions from the audience for Jen before we move on? Right, I've got one question while you guys think of interesting questions. Right, incredible brand, incredible work. There's people sat in this audience thinking, I'd love to come and work for you. What makes a really good outreach to you in terms of getting a job at the North Face? What are you looking for? What catches your attention?
To be honest, we like to be quite diverse. I think, reach out to me on LinkedIn, whatever. I think obviously an interest in the outdoors. We're very much rooted in sustainability, environmentalism, recycling. So I think it's very, very important for us that, not that would be a limitation if you're not super into the outdoors, but it's very much rooted in everything that we do and our purpose and in our passion. So we would really like to see people that are super engaged, that can hit the ground running as far as what the brand's trying to do out in the market.
Fantastic. Any questions for Jen before she goes? Oh, right. We've got to go here first, and then we'll squeeze you in.
I was just interested in terms of your loyalty regime and then trying to get new customers in and how you manage that balance, but also what your data points are.
Well, there's quite a lot of data points, yeah. That's a super interesting question. I'd say in regards to our loyalty, what we're trying to do is we've got various different loyalty schemes that we're running. So only available in certain markets globally, we have like a VIP system. So basically it's all kind of like tracking the consumer journey, tracking what the people are buying, and obviously doing recommendations and specialized creative offers. We do a lot of work in communities where we're providing for on-mountaineering support, so they actually get quite a lot of like products and seeding products and things from us. So from a loyalty perspective, we're quite fortunate because we do have a great warranty and returns policy as well. So in terms of the kind of products that we produce, they're so high-end and so tested already, because I think one of the things that I realized when I joined the North Face is if we get something wrong, somebody could die. So it's very, very rigorous. So I think there's a lot of trust there when it comes to our authenticity. So I think once we've got you in and you've tried our products and you see all the functionality and the benefits, that's been very, very easy for us to retain. And then obviously it's about remaining that consistency. So we can manage loyalty by keeping the consistency season on season to know that you can replace that product if you need to. So we've definitely got some icons and some franchises like our Quest, like our Future Light jackets that just run all year, every year. We might do some color updates, but it's ultimately the same. When it comes to new consumers, we're actually using a lot of different agencies in regards to where is our brand share, what's our price pointing, where are we with competition, just like everybody else. And I think there's definitely some segments that we see that, yes, we're engaging with youthful consumers, probably more in the lifestyle sphere rather than the outdoor sphere, and it's about that conversion now into that hobbies and that experience. So for us, engaging with new consumers, what kind of loyalty and events can we do that get them more to the side of the mountaineering authenticity that we really strive for. So, yeah.
Jen, thank you so much. Round of applause.